Okay. So this is what we have done right now with respect to the installation. Yeah. So here he is speaking about a user called as Ansible user. I have created a user called as Ansible itself. That's the only difference, right? Okay. So these are the terminologies which you should be familiar with. Inventories, modules, variables, facts, playbooks, and place. Okay, configuration files, templates, roles, and Ansible what. Okay, so once you finish complete Ansible learning, right, you would be literate on all of these terminologies. Okay, but let us have a very simple overview of all of this because we might need to start working on them. Okay, so inventories. Okay, inventory is nothing but the list of all the nodes which your control server has to connect to. That's it. Inventory enti, it is nothing but list of nodes which your control server has to connect to. And whenever you see a list can be a static list or a dynamic list. That's what is trying. Okay, so I'll be showing you where to change this because we'll be doing it quite soon. Okay, so what is that we would write in inventories? So whatever servers which you want to configure from Ansible, you will put them in inventories. As simple as that. Okay, and the next one, modules. Okay, Ansible modules are basically, I would say, the things which do the work for us. Okay, for example, you want to install something on your node using Ansible, then you need to find the right module. Okay, because module does the activity. Module is the atomic unit of work. It is like Linux command. What is Linux command? That does some activity on Linux, right? Similarly, in Ansible, module does some activity. So for example, if I want to ping to the other machine, I would be looking out or searching for module which helps me to ping. I want to install software, then I would be searching for modules which help me to install software. I want to change something in a file, then I would be searching a module which helps me to change something in a file. So module is the core work or core things which we utilize in our day-to-day work. Okay, so Ansible comes up with a whole list of modules. Okay, so we would be basically using them. Now if you see over here, he has given you an example of yum module. So for example, if you want to install something on Red Hat family, for example, if I want to install Apache server, the basic Linux command is yum install httpd. Okay, since there is a yum, rather than using that Linux command, I can replace that with an Ansible module called as yum, because I will not be writing Linux commands, I would be writing playbooks, right? And in playbooks I would be using modules. Okay, and there is a whole list of modules. We would be going through that and we would be looking into in which situation we need to use what. Okay, the difference between module and a Linux command mostly is modules are idempotent, whereas Linux commands are not. Okay, yum module kuda installation చేస్తుంది, yum Linux command kuda installation చేస్తుంది. రెండిటికి difference ఏంటి? The difference is yum module of Ansible is idempotent, which means that whether you run it for one time or thousands of times, it would give you the same result, whereas your commands don't guarantee that. Okay, it might be idempotent or it might not be idempotent. Okay, but there are certain modules which are not idempotent where Ansible is explicit about it. Then you as an Ansible developer should basically enforce idempotency. Are we clear? Idempotency అన్ని సార్లు ప్రతి మాడ్యూల్ కి ఉండకపోవచ్చు. There might be some modules where they do not guarantee idempotency. In that case, we as Ansible developers are responsible for basically hooking it up with something so that it becomes idempotent. Probably a if condition, as simple as an if condition will give you an idempotency. So that's how it works. Okay, so module is what? It is the thing which does the work. Okay, so to do any work in Ansible, we need to know what are the modules which I need to use. To use which module, I should know first the manual steps. So I want to install Apache server. If I don't know the steps, I can't write it in Ansible first. Okay, so for a few days we would be looking at Linux steps as well as basically then converting them into Ansible playbooks using these modules. Okay, variables, self-explanatory. This we have been learning from years, I think. Okay, some portions of playbooks which you want to be dynamic, which are repeating, which you can pass values to, that becomes a variable, right? Okay, for example, the folder where you need to copy the files. Why do you want to put it fixed? Put it as a variable so that user while calling it might change it. Ansible facts. Okay. So whenever you push something from Ansible control server, what it does is it tries to gather information about your node. When I say information, it would be what is the free space, what is the memory that is required, and all of these aspects. Okay. So those details, what Ansible collects is called as Ansible facts. Okay. Ansible నుండి మన కంట్రోల్ సర్వర్ నుండి నోడ్ కి పుష్ చేస్తాం కదా కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ వాట్ ఎవర్ వి రైట్ ఎ ప్లేబుక్ ద మూమెంట్ వి డూ దట్ okay what Ansible does is it will send that via SSH and it will also collect your nodes details. Okay, the nodes details could be host name, free memory, okay, what is its IP address. These are the details of your machines and these we call it as facts. Okay, whenever we say Ansible facts, these are the basic details of your node. Yeah, and then plays and playbooks, this is what we write. Okay, a playbook is something like a manual or an instruction manual which we write so that we can execute our infrastructure. For example, your manager comes and tells you that I want a LAMP server. He comes and tells you that I want a FTP server, I want SSH server, something like that. So for that activity to realize in Ansible, you would be writing playbook. And what playbook consists of? Playbook consists of different plays. And what each play uses module. Playbook lo plays untai and every play will use module. That's how simple it is, right? Playbook is nothing but a YML file. We would also learn what a YML file is, but as of now, till the terminology whatever we have learned, where will the name of or the entries of all of our nodes will go into? Inventory, right? Inventory is a place where you would write list of all of the servers. In our case, we have added 3 nodes, right? Node 1, node 2 and node 3. The information of these 3 will end up in a file which is called as inventory. Okay, so whenever I want to execute any infra automation or infra provisioning, what I would do is I would need to execute some steps. Okay, for each step I would be finding an equivalent Ansible module. Okay, Ansible module is atomic activity in Ansible. Okay, and then I would have variables. And what are variables for? Rather than hard coding everything, if you want to give user an option so that he can change certain values. For example, install this software in D drive rather than C drive. Okay, basically create a file at some other place. Okay, all of these activities, this we would call it as variables. And then we would have facts. What are facts? Facts are details of your nodes which are collected by Ansible whenever you push some configurations. But if you don't push, it will not collect any facts. That's how it works. Okay, facts are details of your nodes. It can be like memory, host name, free space, it could be anything. Okay, and then we have plays and playbooks. Playbook is basically the sequence of plays which we write, and play is an individual activity and every individual activity uses module. That's how simple it is. Yeah, are we clear now? So we write all of our entries of our machines in playbooks, right? Yeah, but there is some place where you can write it actually, but not only that. Okay, so remember all of these items. Okay, so and then we would have configuration files. If you want Ansible to behave somewhat differently, the place where Ansible searches for inventories, the place where Ansible logs the information, if you want to change any of those, then there is something called as configuration files. Ansible has a configuration file. Initially, we would start with a configuration which is in etc ansible ansible.cfg. That is a place where we will start with. Okay, so what is this purpose of configuration file is to change somewhat default behaviors of Ansible. For example, Ansible gives by default an error logging, but if you want a verbose logging, then you have to go to this file. Ansible by default searches for your inventory at specific folder. You don't want to be searched in that folder, but you want it in some other folder. So you want to change these kind of configuration items. And Ansible ela behave chestundi anna configuration marchali anukunnappudu, we take the rescue of this file. There are multiple ways of really doing it. One is change the entries in etc Ansible configuration files, or there are some other ways like put your Ansible, your own Ansible.cfg in your home directory, or create an environment variable, something like that. But don't worry about this. Ansible.cfg is a configuration for Ansible. Okay, there you can change certain details if you don't like the default behavior, or if your organization doesn't want the default behavior. That's how it works. Okay, templates. Okay, this is something which should hit almost in every configuration management too. Okay, let us assume this. Okay, after that we would have something called as handlers and roles. Don't worry about it. I am not going to discuss about it today because it is, for this to understand we need to know some the other activities very well. But what they are is, at the end of Ansible you should be able to write everything as roles, not as playbooks. So we would be writing them as roles, because roles gives you a better reusability, and in roles we use handlers. Okay, so but for example I will tell a simple logic for a handler. Okay, whenever you restart a service, or let us assume whenever you have changed certain file. Okay, I have changed some configuration file of Apache. Do I need to restart Apache or not? Yes. So every time it doesn't make sense for you to write that step, change file, restart Apache. So rather than that, what we can do is we can write restart Apache once, and whenever we do this task, we can always ask it to restart. That is called as a handler. Okay, so you can create handlers in Ansible. That could be as simple as, whenever you restart Apache server, also just basically clean up the temp directory and okay, so in restart Apache whatever module which you have written, okay, you would have a handler over there which basically cleans the temp directory, something like that. So handler is some action that has to happen immediately after something. Okay, so how do you configure is handler, and role is basically a unit of a better way of reusability of your code, so that you can change or you can share lot of activity of whatever you have done. For example, I am installing a LAMP server. Okay, and you are installing basically MySQL. Okay, LAMP server also has MySQL, right? So rather than writing two different times, how can I reuse the MySQL whatever I have written already? So that can be effectively done with roles. Okay, roles is all about reusability, modularity. Okay, the next level మనకి playbooks అవన్నీ వచ్చిన తర్వాత మాట్లాడుకోవాల్సింది. Okay, so, and the last one which I'm going to discuss is, there is one more thing over here, but yeah, but last two. Ansible Vault is how to basically maintain passwords, because we can't write passwords directly in the files, right? So if you have some passwords to be handled, then you would be using something called as Ansible Vault. And the last one is Ansible Tower. Okay, Ansible Tower is not a core component of Ansible. That's the reason why it is not here, but we would be learning even that Ansible Tower is an enterprise way of dealing Ansible. Okay, where it makes it simple. You would have a UI, you would have a better look at you can get the better reports and all of that. But whatever we start with is, we start with the open source Ansible, okay, which is absolutely free. Okay, you can add as many hosts as you want. There is no limits. Okay, but it is open source. Fine. Any doubts till this point? Ansible setup document. Yeah. Okay. So to open Visual Studio Code and dot after you install Visual Studio Code. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Fine. Make sense? Yeah. And you are seeing the last button over here, right? We have the fifth one. Okay, click over here and just go and search if you see something called as Ansible. Are you seeing anything? Yeah. Language Ansible syntax support, and Ansible autocomplete. So let us install this. I have it already. So in your case, you would see something called as install. Just install that. Okay. After install, it will ask you to reload. Okay. And if you want, you can basically install. If you don't like this, probably we can go with Ansible autocomplete and all of that. Okay. So anything for that matter. So just go with the one which has loads of downloads. Okay. So for example, if I don't want it, I can uninstall it at any moment. Okay. reload. Okay. First thing is I have loads of what do you say plugins already. So I'm disabling them completely. Disabling them for this workspace. So it is not a problem even though if you have multiple what do you say extensions. These are called as extensions. Okay. And this work on every other operating system. You can use the same Visual Studio in Windows, Linux, Mac, all of them. Okay. So what is that I want? I want it for Ansible. So I just go over here. He would tell you what is that it does. Okay. And I would go to any other package. He would tell you what it does. Okay. He would tell you this is a portion of Atom's autocomplete Ansible package for Visual Studio Code. So let me try this time. This one. Okay. And then you have to reload it. Okay. So what these extensions will do it to you is whenever you are typing something, right, it would give you some help. That's it. Nothing beyond it. Okay. Fine. Okay. So let us go to our first and important file, which is inventory. Okay. So it might have man. Okay. Fine. It's okay. So what I do is I'd close all the unused terminals. Okay. Ansible zone is fine. Okay. And go over here, git bash, and let me copy the command for connecting to server, and let us create our first inventory with node 1 and node 2 and node 3. Yeah. Fine. So control machine, connect. Oh, why do I need sudo? Yeah, let me sudo cd /etc/ansible ls. So what are the three files you are seeing over here? Ansible.cfg. That is a configuration file. And then you are seeing something called as hosts. This is the file which I am interested in right now. Okay. So this host file is our inventory file. Okay. You can use this, or if you want, you can create one more. Okay. So for the sake of maintaining the originality, what I would do is I would copy this host file or have a copy of it. Host to host dot. Okay. And now let me just see what are the contents of hosts. So vi hosts. You are seeing it, right? So then it says, it gives you certain explanation of how to write and all of that. So for us anyway, because we are going to learn it, I'm not interested in all of that. Okay. If you want, you can basically put it. So what I would do is, okay, I'd come to the end and hash is comment. Okay. So my nodes, nothing difficult, right? And now here you can write details of your nodes, right? So details of your nodes are, first let us write an entries. Okay. I need private DNS of all of these machines. Okay. Okay. Make sense? This is what node 1. Okay. And then also I will have, let me see if there is localhost that is enabled or not. If not, I will enable for localhost also. Okay. No, let me not write it. So let me stop it at that. I have written the first node 1. Okay. Okay. And now I want to check whether this node is working or not. Okay. So I would be using an Ansible command line, and I would be using one module. Okay. And then I would be using this machine, and I would be pinging that. Make sense? Yeah. So I need to go with Ansible module ping. There is a whole list of Ansible modules, but for today I'm directly not going into the list of modules to confuse you, but I'm going to use a module called as ping. So I'm not going to even write a playbook also. I'm going to use the Ansible command line, or what we also call as ad hoc commands. What we also call as ad hoc commands. Okay. So I want to use this ping. Okay. And in ping, you need to basically tell what are the different machines and all of that. So is this my machine? So I would do Ansible. What my module is minus m or hyphen m. And what is the module which I'm going to use? Ping. Okay. And then I'm going to call it as all. All is all the entries in your host. So what is happening? Host is unreachable. What is happening? Failed to connect to host. Yeah. What could be the reason for this? Okay. So let me try this now. Ansible minus m ping all. Working now? Yeah. Do you remember the SSH copy ID? Yeah. With which user we have done it? In the earlier case, with which user I was trying it? Root. Okay. Root doesn't have its ID copied over there, right? So that's the reason why it is failed. Okay. Fine. Okay. So if you see what it is trying to tell us, I have pinged it and it is responding it. Okay. Shall we add other nodes? Yeah. Simple, right? vi slash etc Ansible hosts. Okay. Okay. Now node 2. Okay. Fine. I don't have permissions on this. Okay. It's okay. Let us make an entries, and then I don't want to change the permissions of the files right now. So it's okay. Okay. Sudo hyphen minus I and vi etc Ansible hosts. Okay. So whatever servers which you have, basically you would make an entry of them. Okay. Okay. And then I would go with my node 3. You can go with IP addresses also if you want. If you don't like host names, you can also put IP addresses over there. Okay. So make sense? So I've added 3. Now su switch user Ansible, because Ansible is the only user which has permissions to basically go over there. So Ansible minus m, I want to use a module purchase ping. Okay. And I'm not giving any host file. Okay. I'm not giving any inventory, because by default Ansible picks up the inventory from etc Ansible hosts. Okay. If you want different inventory, you can write your own file. Even you can do that. Okay. But for us, for now, I'm just saying ping and ping to everything. whatever is there in that. So let us see what happens. Happening. So connection to all of these three machines is success. Okay, make sense? Fine. But the way of writing like that is good. Okay, but it will not work out in every case. Okay, what if you want to basically, out of these three machines, let us assume that one is web server or two are web servers and one is a DB server. There might be certain situations in your configuration where you might want to do certain activities specifically for database server and certain activity separately for web server. How can you address that? How will you address that? So basically that is called as grouping. Okay, you will group your nodes. And how can I group my nodes? Let us just look into that file again. Okay, so vi etc Ansible host. For today, let us play with default Ansible file. Tomorrow we'll write our own Ansible file and then we would have our own entries into this. Okay, so let us assume that our node 1 and node 3 are web servers. Okay, is it okay? Yes. So I would write something like web servers. Okay, and what are my web servers? Node 1 and node 3. Okay, what is node 1's private DNS? Okay, and node 3. Okay, and then I would be writing it as DB server. Let us assume that our node 2 is DB server. So select node 2 and make sense. So this is called as grouping. So where you basically write something in square bracket and after that you would make host entries. Okay, and now if I want I can make further classifications, but before that let me pause it at here and let us see how it works. Okay, so I'll be using ping itself. I'll not be using any other complicated module. Let us work with ping first and then we'll explore what are the different modules. Okay, so switch user to Ansible and then Ansible -m ping, and then I would be saying web servers. So what is happening? It is pinging only to our web servers, right? So similarly, Ansible -m ping db. So okay, this is called as grouping of hosts. You can group your different hosts into different categories. Okay, because generally you might have different categories where you need to apply the same configuration on these categories of machines. And you would be using this host groupings. Okay, so my machines are already part of some groups, right? Now let me create them or make them part of other groups. Even that is possible. Okay, so vi not. Okay, so vi /etc /ansible /host file. Now let us assume that there might be certain situations where based out of your operating system you need to apply patches. Security upgrade ఏదో వస్తుంది మన ransomware కు వచ్చినట్టు. Probably you might get some security patches based out of your operating systems. So I would create a group based out of operating system so that I can apply whatever I want to on that machines whenever I want it. Okay, so what I would do is go over here and I would say Ubuntu. Okay, and Ubuntu are nothing but these two things, right? Same grouping ega. So what has happened? It's okay. Let me recopy it. It should. Bash prompt commands are much simpler. Oh, it is not giving it. Fine. I have tried to basically copy it. Somehow I don't what do you say, enjoy using copy commands of that VA editor. I hate them because basically I started from Windows, right? Select JC, DLU. Somehow I don't enjoy that. Yeah, that's the whole reason for me to use this bash. Yeah, node 3 and node 1. Okay, fine. So a machine can be part of different groups based out of your convenience. Okay, ఒక మెషిన్ అంటే ఒక్కసారి రాయాలి ఆ ఎంట్రీ, నో రూల్ లైక్ దట్. సో ఇఫ్ యూ సీ our machine is present in directly which is not part of any group, that is called as ungrouped hosts. Okay, our machine is part of probably two groups. One is called as DB server or web server, the other one is operating system. So now, okay, su Ansible and then Ansible minus m ping. Okay, that's it. Okay. All the Ubuntu servers I need to restart. Let us assume that's the scenario. So probably I might find out a module which helps me to restart the servers, and then I might execute some command like this: Ansible uh, minus m, that module's name, and if it takes some parameters, we would be looking into how to give that parameters and the group name. That's it. Okay, fine. So are we clear on whatever we have discussed today? Any doubts on these aspects? Right? So can we write our own entry files now? Whenever we write an entry in the host files, what are the categories they are? They are either ungrouped or they are grouped. Okay, so ungrouped host is not a right way of doing it. Okay, so in our entry, this way of writing it down is not a better way. Where is, yeah, okay, don't write it directly always. So I'm just, what I do is I put comments here. Okay, but this is not a good way or a better way to handle any stuff. Okay, write your entry always as a part of some group. Okay, don't write it as ungrouped. Okay, because if you want to do anything specific onto that machine, then you have to give that machine's whole name, which becomes difficult. At least if you don't have any other group, you create a group which refers to as this group has no group. You can call that group as no name group or something like that. Okay, or not grouped, something like that. But don't have them separately. But philosophically or basically technically it is possible, but not a good practice. Always have them to be part of some group. Okay, the only thing which will not be part of that group is will be only one machine which will be always, which might not be grouped in many cases, is localhost. Okay, generally if you have written your Ansible configuration files correctly, localhost is the only machine, okay, generally which will not be grouped. Okay, because very rarely we try to use Ansible to control our machine itself. Okay, but I have seen people using a group called as localhost and then writing localhost in that. I have seen also that. That's a better, far better way than doing this. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, now let me just Ansible -m ping, and then you are seeing -i, right? At c Ansible. See what happens. This does not have any target hosts. Okay, now let me do vi at c Ansible host dot original, and let me write somewhere down the line something called as localhost. Let me execute the same command again. What is happening? Some modules does not make sense, error missing target hosts. I'm missing the target host command. Basically, what is this command? What is the error which I'm trying to do? I want you to find it out. నేను చేసిందల్లా ఏంటి? ఒక ఎంట్రీ రాశాను, and I'm using something called as -i. Is -i right, or do I need to use the other command line? The whole point why I'm asking you to do this is, okay, whenever you look at Ansible command, okay, man Ansible, okay, there are loads and loads of command line arguments. Okay, okay, it is not possible for us to go through each and every command. Okay, so at least I want you guys to look into that there is some documentation around. Whenever I want to do something differently, there is basically something which can help me out. మీరు ఇదన్నా వాడుకోవచ్చు, లేదంటే Ansible command line options, just Google it, you would get all of the stuff. What is that I have used? I have used Ansible -m ping, and after that I have given something called as -i, and I have given some other inventory file. Okay, is that the right way of doing it or not? I want you to Google and tell me tomorrow. Okay, or did something wrong over there? Okay, ఇది అందరూ చేయరు. At least for the people who are interested, try to do it. మిగతా వాళ్ళు ఎలాగో రేపు వచ్చి మాకు ఖాళీ లేదంటారు as usual. Okay, so don't worry about them. Try to do this, because command lines can never be taught, they can be only experienced. మీరు చేస్తే కానీ తెలియదు. Okay, so there are many options, many options, and these options keep on changing. Probably in the next version of Ansible you might get some more command line arguments. So the only way to keep them up to date is just by going through this documentation and using them. So write down the command which I have written and just tell me what is the mistake which I have done, why it is telling as missing target hosts, what is the problem with that. Yeah, sometimes I would give these kind of reasons, errors, because it is not that I want you to trouble you by asking you to going into documentation and all of that, because that is not trouble, that is going to be your job. Okay, దాని trouble అనుకోకండి, ఎందుకంటే that is how your job will be. Okay, you have to work on something just by exploring the documentation of it. Okay, so if you see in Ansible, by end of this course, what is that we would be doing? We would be doing configuration management, right? And whenever you are configuring it, for example, they ask you to use Ansible to install something which you have never done in your entire life. Okay, even not in your wildest imagination, but they have asked you to do it. How will you do that? Okay, you can't tell that quality thought has not taught us, right? Because this is not a board exam anyway. The only way to do it is any activities in configuration management, first you have to do it manually. And for each manual step, try to automate them into Ansible or shell script. Even if you want to write a shell script, that's a process. You need to know manual steps, convert them into automation. That's a basic philosophy of any automation. Okay, so we would be doing that manual activities, and whenever we are doing some manual activities, there are some errors that happen. And how do you basically find out the errors? It is all journey, you will not learn it in one day. But always remember, whenever error comes, don't stop it at that. Try to see or copy that error, whatever you are seeing, paste it in Google and see what it says. there will be lot of Stack Overflow suggestions of what it is all about. Okay.